Women are easily drawn to men who understand certain truths. If you truly listen to what I'm about to say, this might change the way you see attraction forever. The first thing every man must master is the art of storytelling. And I'm not talking about fairy tales or fabricated adventures. I'm talking about the quiet power of telling your truth in a way that reveals who you are, without ever needing to boast about it. Here's the harsh reality. 95% of men don't know how to tell a story that captures a woman. Most talk to impress, not to connect. They start telling stories designed to make them look smart, adventurous, or high value. But the moment a woman senses that you're trying to impress her, you've already failed. Because women don't fall for the story, they fall for the man behind it. So, how should you tell a story? Patience. We'll get there. But first, you must understand what's really happening beneath the surface. When a woman listens to your story, she's not just hearing your words, she's reading between the lines, decoding your tone, your composure, your subtle cues, to determine what kind of man you really are. Women don't trust words, they trust energy. So every story you tell becomes a mirror reflecting the man behind it. Let's imagine a simple example. You tell a story about waking up one Tuesday afternoon, still hungover, and hearing a knock at the door. You open it to find two enthusiastic preachers trying to convert you to their new religion. You tell it like it's a funny moment, but in her mind, she's already forming judgments. She's not just laughing at the story, she's noticing the details. A man who drinks on a Monday night. A man with nowhere to be the next morning. A man who wakes up at noon. Unless you're both in college, these aren't traits that spark attraction. They trigger disinterest. Because women don't just listen to what you say. They listen for who you are. Now, that doesn't mean you should hide your life or act perfect. It means you should learn how to weave your strengths into your stories, naturally, not forcefully. Every story you tell should hint at the man you are, without you ever needing to say it outright. Let's revisit that same story, but told differently. Tuesday afternoon, I was finally catching up on some sleep. The first real rest I'd had in weeks. My team and I had been grinding hard to close a big contract, and Monday night we finally did it. We went out to celebrate. Next morning, my head's pounding. Someone's knocking on the door, I ignore it. But they keep knocking. Finally, I throw on some clothes and open up, and there are these two guys in suits holding pamphlets asking if I've accepted the wisdom of their great leader. I'm standing there, half asleep, thinking, man, I don't even remember what I accepted last night. See the difference? It's the same story, but the energy has changed. You've revealed that you work hard, that you're disciplined, that you lead a team, that you have purpose. But you didn't have to brag. You didn't say you're successful. You showed it through context. That's how a man tells a story. And when you reach the part that makes you look impressive, don't emphasize it. Don't linger on the details that make you look good. Just keep moving as if it's no big deal. Because real confidence doesn't seek validation. It assumes value. Always leave mystery in your words. A story that reveals everything loses its power. A man who explains too much loses his presence. Let her fill in the blanks. Let her wonder. Because attraction doesn't happen while you're with her. It happens when you're not. It builds in the silence. When she's alone, replaying your words, trying to understand what makes you different. That's when curiosity becomes desire. So how do you make her want more? It's not about being unavailable. It's about being complete without her. When she senses that your attention is valuable, that your time is earned, not given, she starts to chase it. When she realizes your focus is on your purpose, not her approval, she begins to crave your attention more deeply. Attraction isn't formed through constant communication. It's formed through emotional contrast. Most men overstay their moments. They text too much, talk too long, Reveal too soon. They think that more interaction means more connection. But it's the opposite. The less predictable you are, the more she thinks about you. The less she knows, the more she wants to know. That's why the greatest weapon a man can have is restraint. When you finish a story, leave her hanging just a little. When you're together, leave before the energy fades. When you message her, say less than she expects. Because mystery makes her imagination work. And the imagination is where attraction lives. Women don't fall for the man who gives them everything. They fall for the man who makes them feel something, the man whose silence feels magnetic, the man who walks away and leaves her wondering what's going on inside his mind. That's the essence of masculine presence. It's not loud, it's not performative, it's calm, composed, and quietly powerful. When you master storytelling and the art of leaving her wanting more, you don't just attract women, you command attention without trying. You become the kind of man whose energy speaks for him. And that is the first secret, the foundation of everything that follows, because the man who controls his words also controls his world. Think of your favorite dessert. One bite, irresistible. A whole bucket. Suddenly it loses its appeal. The same rule applies to how you reveal yourself to a woman. Give her too much too soon and you remove the hungry part of her mind that does the work of desire. Give her just enough to taste, to wonder, to fill the quiet hours imagining who you might be, and she'll come back wanting more. Tease with intention. This isn't childish gamesmanship, it's disciplined reserve. When you leave pieces of yourself unexplained, you activate her imagination, the most potent aphrodisiac there is. Small, deliberate hints beat a full biography every time. A single line like, "Remind me to tell you about the time I almost missed a flight," said as you stand to leave, is a key turned in a lock. It promises a story, a world she hasn't yet entered, and that promise keeps her mind occupied long after you're gone. Anticipation builds investment. It makes your absence meaningful. But tease honestly. Don't manufacture mystery by lying or pretending to be someone you're not. Authentic scarcity, being deliberately selective about what you share and when, communicates that your time, your attention, and your inner life are valuable. That alone shifts you from commodity to prize. Now, mastery of presence includes a lesser-known skill, breaking awkward silence. Most men panic when a pause appears and immediately attempt to refill the room with noise. That reflex betrays insecurity. The man who can sit in silence and then move the energy forward gains 2 subconscious points in her assessment: leadership and problem-solving. Here's why this matters. A woman can break the silence anytime. She knows how to talk. When she doesn't, it's a test. She's watching to see if you'll assume responsibility for the dynamic. Will you lead? Will you fix the tension? Not by frantic talking, but by calming it. Solve that little problem, and you've shown you can solve larger, less visible problems too. Leadership is attractive because it promises safety, direction, and stability. So how do you break silence with skill, not clumsiness? Use one of these moves, practiced and delivered without desperation. 1. Use humor to diffuse the tension. A light, self-aware remark like, "Well, that was awkward." Either one of us needs to save the conversation, or we just admit we've both run out of material, dissolves pressure. It's disarming, honest, and human. Laughter recalibrates the room. It moves you out of performance and into connection. 2. Change the scene. If the energy feels stuck, suggest, "Let's step outside for a breath of fresh air." Movement resets microdynamics and gives new sensory fuel for conversation. The smallest change, a different angle of light, a new backdrop, can spark curiosity and new topics. 3. Ask one vivid, open question. Don't default to banal prompts. Instead, ask something that invites a story or a value. What's a small thing people notice about you that actually matters? That kind of question pushes beyond surface-level chatter and creates an opening for real connection. 4. Drop a short teaser story. Instead of dumping a long monologue, give a one-line hook. I had a moment once that forced me to change course. I'll tell you next time. It signals depth and keeps her imagining. 5. Use observational humor. Note something in the room that's slightly off, then pivot. Is that a plant or a sculpture? We should get to the bottom of this mystery. Small, curious observations show presence and give her a gentle invitation to engage. 6. Lean into composed silence. Sometimes the most powerful move is to simply hold your poise and let the silence be. That's not avoidance, it's confidence. People often fill silence with filler because they fear it. When you don't, she feels the steadiness of your energy. It's magnetic. All of these tactics share the same principle. Resolve the tension, don't perform for it. Move from needing to be liked to deciding what kind of interaction you will have. That decision, here, now, quietly enacted, is the leadership she's waiting for. One final caveat. Tease and hold silence as extensions of your inner life, not as manipulations. Stoic presence is not a script. It's a practice of self-mastery. The aim isn't to trick someone into wanting you, it's to be so composed and intentionally scarce that the right person naturally leans in. Give her a taste, leave space to imagine, and when the silence comes, lead with calm. That's how attraction becomes permanence, and how curiosity becomes real connection. When you deploy these methods, don't use them as tricks. Use them as expressions of presence. The woman doesn't want a show. She wants a grounded man who can hold the room when words fail. Now, listening. If you want a woman to think about you all night, listening is your highest leverage. But listening is not passive. It's not waiting for your turn to speak. It's an active craft that signals you are present and worthy of her inner life. Here are 5 practical steps. Precise, simple, powerful. 1. Receive the whole message first. Let her finish. Men rush to be understood. Women need to be heard. Sit back. Breathe. When she stops, you respond from the whole of what she said, not from a fragment. That alone separates you from most men. 2. Amplify the emotion. Don't comment on facts. Magnify feeling. If she says the beach made her calm, don't say, "Oh, the beach is nice." Say, "Isn't there something almost sacred about how the ocean slows your head down?" You're not embellishing, you're increasing the emotional volume of her experience. That makes her feel felt. 3. Echo, but smarter. Reframing is more powerful than parroting. If she says the trip was refreshing, rephrase with your voice. Leaving the city seems to clear everything out, like you can actually breathe again. You show comprehension, not mimicry. 4. Use empathy. Name the feeling beneath the fact. If a cancelled flight ruined her plans, don't complain about the airline. Say, "That must have felt maddening, waiting and not being able to do anything about it." Labeling the emotion validates it. It tells her you see the human inside the story. 5. Caption the conversation. Bring up something she mentioned earlier and fold it back into the present. If she told you about a skydiving trip and later she admits she's anxious about an interview, say, "You jumped out of a plane, you've handled bigger fears." This signals attention and links her moments into a narrative where you're an attentive witness. Do these 5 consistently, and you become rare. Not just a listener, but the man who understands. She'll replay your questions and your reflections in the quiet. She'll remember the way you made her feel because feeling lodges deeper than facts. A few tactical tips to make these principles work in the real world. When silence stretches, don't panic. The pause is a chance to lead. Use a light joke or a location change, or ask an observational question about the moment. What are you noticing right now? That pulls her from thought into sharing. Avoid the urge to impress. Men think stories must be feats of bravado. The better route is the modest reveal. Tell a story that allows her to infer your qualities. If you want to signal ambition, tell the story of the late-night work celebration and the contract that followed, not the boast. Let her draw the conclusion. Leave curiosity in your wake. Before you part ways, seed a thread she wants to pick up. Remind me to tell you about the one time. That small cliffhanger keeps you in her head between meetings. Anticipation is an aphrodisiac. Abundance is a sedative. Practice the pause. A well-placed silence followed by a calm, considered line carries weight. Learn to sit in stillness long enough for your words to matter. Finally, remember why all this works. Women are wired to match a man's inner economy. When you move with purpose, when you break silences with calm, when you listen with skill, you signal scarcity of attention, and that scarcity creates value. You're not performing, you're being present. Presence is the currency that buys real attention. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Lead the conversation, not because you need to control it, but because you respect the space enough to hold it. Listen, not because you want to reply, but because you want to understand. And when you leave a room, leave a small, tasteful mystery behind. A hint, not an exhibition. Let her curiosity do the work you cannot manufacture with noise. Do this, and the silence will no longer test you. It will serve you.